Have you heard of Punch before? Have you heard of Domark before? There are a whole bunch of new products out there. What are they?
Well, it's kind of fun. When there are some new things out there, you say, well, wait a minute. Why would I consider using it? What is it going to add to my program? And in this case, there's some interesting tie-ins that could make things pretty cheap for your farm.
Well, what we're getting at here is, in talking about soybeans, there are a lot of people over the last few years who've been spraying for soybean aphids. There have also been a lot of people figuring out that fungicide actually pays in soybeans if you use a half rate of fungicide. We started doing some of this work on our own farm just a few years ago. The reason why we started with this is we raise some wheat and we deal with a lot of wheat farmers in the country. And for many years, they've been using a half rate of fungicide. So whether it's Headline or Quilt or Stratego, they're using a half rate early with their herbicide, and it's doing a tremendous job, and it really pays off for these guys getting a better job of disease control without spending a whole lot of money. So we started trying this on our own farm about 4 years ago, comparing full rate fungicide versus half rate fungicide on soybeans. After 4 years, we still haven't found any difference. We're still getting the same level of disease control out of that half rate as we are the full rate. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that in an area like in the southern U.S. or out east where you get way more rain than we do and have a lot more humidity, a lot more disease pressure, in those cases you'll probably need the full rate. But where we farm, and in the western corn belt here, we only get 23 inches of annual precipitation. That's counting our snow. So it's not that much moisture. We don't have high disease pressure, but we have enough disease that we can more than pay for this fungicide every year in soybeans.
That gets to be the real question for farmers. Will this pay every year for me to use fungicide? And will it pay for me every year to use insecticide? On our farm, we actually use both, and we use them together because, frankly, I can't tell you which year the fungicide's really going to make a huge difference for me, or which year the insecticide might make a huge difference for me. I know every year they're each going to make a small impact, but typically there's one or the other that is going to make a bigger impact each year. So for that reason, with that half rate of fungicide that we're spraying, we're often applying insecticide when there are some insects present. Now, I'm not telling you to spray insecticide when there's nothing out there and isn't going to be anything out there. That's just crazy. You don't want to do that. But if you do have some insects out there and you've got the possibility of some disease pressure, it does make good sense to apply both of those things at the same time.
Well, the timing works out pretty well because soybean aphids are going to show up a lot of times in your field and start to get to economic threshold levels around the R1, R2, R3 stages. So what I'm talking about here is R2 is full flower, R3 is first pod. So somewhere when your beans have lots of flowers on to the point where they start getting some pods on, that's usually about the right timing for spraying both fungicide and soybean aphids. After years of testing this stuff, that's when we've consistently seen the best results. Well, talking about the fungicide, on our farm we're usually gaining a couple bushels, and on the aphid spray we're usually gaining 5 to 7, maybe even 10 bushels there. So here's the thing, if you can go out this year, you could do a combination of, let's say, Domark and Silencer for around $9 an acre, or you could use Punch fungicide and Asana insecticide for about $9 an acre. You say, boy, that's just about what new crop '09 soybeans are worth. So can you get more than 1 bushel out of controlling disease and insects? I would say absolutely you can, as long as you're seeing some bugs out there when you start spraying.
Okay, so why are we talking about Domark and Punch when products like Headline have gotten a lot more press and have been fine? It works well.
But Headline, the price went way up this year, and it's almost double the price of Punch and Domark. The other thing is the marketing pitch for Domark and Punch is, hey, we're not going to give you green stems. You can go out there with Headline and get the yield gain. Well, that's great, but in the fall you have green stems. Their pitch is, with Domark and Punch, we can do better on white mold, plus we don't have green stems.
So harvestability is just a little bit better, a little bit quicker with those products. We'll see how the performance does in the field too.
And with Silencer and Asana, those are probably the least expensive products you can use, and they work exceptionally well, and they have good respray programs too.
For insecticides.
Right, for insecticides. So you look at these combinations, these are the reasons why we're talking about these products. Don't just think you're only limited to those. There are many products that will control both disease and insects, so you just have to take a look at those.
What's fun about agronomy? We can kill all the insects, we can control all the diseases, we still haven't taken care of the weeds. We'll show you our Weed of the Week coming up next.